Hi, everybody. So I think the live has started. So my name is Jingxin Wang, and I'm from China. I was with High Atlas Foundation for about a month. It was actually supposed to be longer than a month, but then came COVID virus, and I had to stay in Morocco for another month, but I could not work with High Atlas Foundation anymore because, the lockdown, which was sad because the experience at High Atlas Foundation is nothing but positive. So when I first got there, I immediately got the sense of, being in a family because everybody was super welcoming, and even those amongst the staff that did not speak super well English. They tried their best to reach out to me, and I think it was like after the first week, on the first Friday, I think, that someone from the staff actually pulled me aside and told me that, Jingxin, I want to make sure that you personally feel super welcome here. We like you a lot, and we already consider you part of the family. It was really touching, and when I was preparing for this live, I made sure that I mentioned this first because, to me, I think for an organization that wants to help people, that wants to spread warmth, spread care and help, it's important that they embody these values themselves. It's important that they show empathy, that they show that they do care, and that's the vibe that I get from the High Atlas Foundation staff members. And as someone who likes to travel a lot, I've frequently found myself in situations where I have to deal with a bunch of strangers where nothing is familiar to me, and these situations can be really daunting, can be really intimidating. But the staff at High Atlas Foundation made sure that I felt just fine. Okay, now circling back to the work that they do. So I went on a few field trips with High Atlas Foundation. It was part of our job as volunteers to go on field trips and write about the amazing stuff that they do. I think it's an amazing idea to get volunteers to do this because you get people with such different backgrounds, like various interests from so many different countries, and that's a fresh perspective on what they're doing. And so I remember the first trip I took, it was to this primary school. It's something that they stress a lot at High Atlas Foundation, the fact that they work primarily with like the most marginalized communities. That's people living in really rural area, inaccessible to the outside world, basically. So like it took us at least, every time we go on field trips, it would take us at least 2 hours or something on the road, just going through the mountains and doing all those zigzags. And it's really like very, very, very remote. And it's amazing that the High Atlas Foundation found a way to reach out to these people. Anyway, going back to the first field trip, so I had no idea what to expect. I do not speak any Arabic. It was like my second day or so in Morocco, or any Arabic-speaking country, and to be honest, I was kind of scared. But it was amazing how everything just happened so smoothly. I was there, and they greeted us, like all the teachers were there, and the admin staff were also there. Like I was not expecting such a huge greeting, but that's what they did, and they served us tea, which at that point I didn't realize was like a must-have. But yeah, there was tea, and there was a lot of different snacks, so we're like very well fed before we got started. And I think it's this amicable spirit that really makes everything so easy. Like when we were with the kids, like my French was like super bad at that time, and their French is also not the best. It's like they're like primary school students. So basically, when we're interacting, like we couldn't really understand what each other was saying, but somehow we both felt this, like me and the children, we all felt this connection, like this special connection, um, which I think is amazing. One of the kids after the event, they showed me her drawings, which was nothing like I'm used to in terms of kids drawings, because in China, like you have kids signing up for all those fancy art classes where you really meticulously learn the skills and like how to draw I don't know, a flower or like an animal or something like that. So it's but what I see in this kid's work, it was like rare, like raw creativity. Like it was obvious that they didn't hire an arts tutor for her, but like it was just splash ink, like very different colors, a lot of tension in the work. I can't even describe it. Like it was it's really touching when you think about it, because first of all, they're young kids and they're from different culture, and they're well, it's just that you wouldn't expect that you would be able to connect in this way, and that's what we did. And I think that's also one of the reasons why High Atlas Foundation works so well with those communities, because they're able to create these kind of connections, enable these kind of connections. And the event, it was mostly a workshop on the effects of climate change with those children, and and what's amazing is that all the kids are so engaged. Like every time Iman would ask a question, Iman is the program, like the project leader of this workshop. Every time Iman would ask a question, there would be like so many kids raising their hands. And Iman is also very skilled at doing this. I think I wrote about it in one of my articles too. Like she knows like which kids to pick on and how to encourage them to talk. Like, you get those teenage girls who just entered puberty and they're like very self-conscious, but Iman somehow finds a way to like get them to put themselves out there and express their opinions, which I think is great, because climate change, as we all say, like if we are to do something about it, we have to rely on a sense of initiative of on our young people. If it's not something that we can impose on anyone, like to act for our environment and against climate change. Like you really have to get students enthusiastic about it, really personally engaged, and that's what I think Iman was able to do, and I was, to be honest, quite impressed. And so that was my first trip. The second trip, it was also to a very remote area. I don't even recall the name. It was to check on those nurseries where High Atlas Foundation has provided the materials. So it's also something that that's unique about the approach by HAF. It is that they once they planted trees somewhere, or they helped people plant trees somewhere, they don't just stop there. They would go on to make sure that the trees are really taken care of and that it's progressing on the right way. So they do those regular checks to make sure that everything's all right. And yeah, the first stop was with this this, I think, middle-aged man that that manages like this small nursery in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell signal, but no anything actually. And but he seems quite content there. He offered us tea, and we got to talk a little bit. Yeah, it was a nice experience. And the second stop, that's really special because it was a nursery run by women. And there were 4 women, actually 4 girls, that we met this day, and I think they're like 20 something, and they're a bit shy. I kind of sense that, but when the project leader Amina was talking to them about the work, like how they were going to go about it, like on what day they're doing what kind of work. Everybody was so attentive, and I really got I got the feeling that they, you know, that they really wanted that to work. Yeah, it was actually quite a complicated process. How to plant trees and actually have them prosper, because what you usually see in those in those ads promoting tree planting is that, okay, you dig a hole and then you put the tree in there, like somehow it just magically works, somehow it just survives, and actually it's not like that. You have to prepare those bags and you have to like sort out the seeds, and you have to put them in water or something. I don't even remember the process, but there is like preparation that has to be done in order for the tree to grow properly. And Hayat's foundation has many experience in that regard, and they were going through that. They were going through all the details, and it was well. Okay, the connection seemed to have cut off for some reason. Anyway, where was I? So there's this women's workshop, women's nursery. Amina told me later that it started as a women's empowerment workshop. So at first it was nothing structured, and they were just talking about, well, actually, I don't know what's in women's empowerment workshops, but so basically it started spontaneously, and it's amazing how they just put into action like immediately what they've discussed. Like it was like, oh, in this workshop, are you interested in a nursery? I think it was in February or something, and then like in March it happened. And so it was quite amazing. But the reality is that, well, these things don't always succeed. Like the success of initiatives like this should not take for granted. For example, when I was there, like they were talking about that there was supposed to be at least 20 women in like managing this nursery together, because that's how many there were in this community, and only 4 ended up showing up, and they were not sure like when the planting actually started, would actually start, like if the others would show up at that point. Like they didn't even know. So yeah, I asked Zineb, a Moroccan girl that's also volunteering at Hayat's Foundation. Like she told me that the reason is l'embêchement social, which means, I think, that there is still this perception, or there's still this preconceived idea that this is not something that women should work on. So yeah, High Atlas Foundation, when they work in those communities, they still have to fight against those prejudices, and that's also why I think that their work is so very meaningful. It's something that Youssef, the director of High Atlas Foundation, mentioned in a speech later. He mentioned that actually some of the nurseries for women, or like other initiatives, like other cooperatives for women that they assisted in building, like they were proposed by men. So it was men that were like, okay, our wives are staying home all the time doing nothing. I would like to have them be more productive. Well, of course, there is this a sexist undertone that, okay, men are telling women what to do again, but it is nevertheless something that organizations like High Atlas Foundation need to capitalize on, namely that men can also be a source of support for those initiatives, and actually to have them on our side, to have them